Press record. Okay, good evening and welcome to Wolf's Voices 30, our 30th anniversary special edition book response, book review of Barbara Bickel's new book, Art, Ritual, and Trance Inquiry, featuring Celeste Snober, who wrote who wrote the preview, or forward, to the book, and collective members, myself, Tola, aka A Lot of Poetry, and Theresa Maylie, who will be presenting, and Barbara Bickle, responses to her book. We'd also really like to thank Shelf Life Books. And is Shelf Life there? I believe you guys are mostly seeing the Shelf Life book thing, right? So okay. Is June there? We would like to thank June and Shelf Life. So I'm just seeing the Shelf Life thing on the screen. Is it speaker view? Okay. Hi, sorry about that. I guess a little bit of a miscommunication with how, so we're on speaker view, the speaker will show, right? Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure you guys are seeing what we're seeing or what you're supposed to be seeing. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to say welcome to Wolf's Voices, the special edition. I can't believe that this is our 30th one already. Started in August 2013, and time certainly flies. And so instead of having a big party, we're just doing a kind of little special edition. We'd also really like to thank the Calgary Arts Development Association and the Calgary Arts Foundation. We got a little tiny micro grant. Well, not tiny, but we got a micro grant through them, which we're very grateful for. And we will be getting our own Zoom license and a few other things. It can't be used to cover artist fees, so we still appreciate your donations, which will go directly to artists instead of first covering the incidental costs that are always associated with doing stuff like this. Yeah, but we're very, very grateful. And I also want to acknowledge the land that we're on, which is a very important thing. And in the spirit and respect and reciprocity and truth, we honor and acknowledge McGinnis, the traditional Treaty 7 territory and oral practices of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, as well as the Stoney Nakoda and Tsuut'ina nations. We acknowledge that this territory is home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. And finally, we acknowledge all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, and play on this land and who honor and celebrate this territory. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So as I was saying, a special thanks to our co-host Shelf Life Books, who is hosting us on Zoom. And if you would like to make a donation to support the artists for this one and for future ones, you can go to our PayPal account. There's a link right here if you're watching it. And if you want to rewatch the video, that's a good way to do it. There's also will be a link tree and links on our website and Instagram. So now for this evening's program. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Barbara Bickle, who is the author of Art, Ritual, and Trance Inquiry, which was published this year by Palgrave. And Uh, Barbara Bickle is an author and poet, and pardon me. Okay, we'll do this a different way. Barbara Bickle is an artist, researcher, writer, teacher committed to weaving the spirit of art and healing with culture and education. An emeritus associate professor of art education at Southern Illinois University, she currently lives in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where she co-founded Studio M, a research creation lab intersecting arts, culture, and healing with her life partner, R. Michael Fisher. She maintains a multimedia studio and ritual performance practice and exhibits internationally. Art, Ritual, and Trance Inquiry, Irrational Learning in an Irrational World is her first solo authored book. So can we all collectively give a howl out for Barbara? Everyone can unmute themselves. We can all howl together on Zoom. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh! Okay, I don't know. Barbara, you want to go?
Thank you, Adrienne. And I have to say, I've never been howled for before. So it's a good first experience. And I'm really delighted to be part of the Woolf's 30th anniversary celebration. So thank you so much for that. I've really appreciated the vision of Woolf's Voices, really of honoring the overlapping, diverse understandings of the feminine and the intention that you've created for tonight with the collective response to art, ritual, and trance from Tola and Teresa and Celeste and yourself. I'm really honored. And so Woolf's Voices really feels like a perfect home for the sharing of this new book. And it's really, it shares a lot of my journey of becoming a woman artist, sustained by ritual and trance, and also alongside many other women artists. And a woman artist is being anyone, any gender or non-gender, who honors and creates from a place of gestation that we all know as birthed and co-becoming beings on this earth. And sacred art within a feminine understanding of gestation is something I believe our human species is in much need of reconnecting with at this juncture in time, and that Woolf's Voices is very much part of this reconnection. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read just a very brief piece out of my first intro chapter that's entitled An Earth-Based Sensual Spirituality of Art, Ritual, and Trance to get us going. And then after that, I'm going to play the 5-minute video trailer for the book as an introduction to the book and myself and the ideas that are in the book. And then it will unfold from there. So here's my little piece for my first chapter. This is the book there. So in this chapter, I'm going to begin with a found poem that I took from the work of Bretta Edinger's work. And she is the philosopher artist who has articulated Matrixyl theory. That is one of the foundations of the book. So I start with a found poem from her writing. Her artworking on compassion and spirit, the psyche within the cosmos, beyond modernity, its empathy versus abstraction. In Western historical abstraction, such a feminine matrixyl dimension was unimaginable. Art, ritual, and trance inquiry invite an interrelational entrance into the fascinating liminal spaces of knowing, not knowing, and being. When the entrance is related to a place, geologically and sacredly, the voice of the earth can emerge and inmerge with the inquirer. Listening to the voice of the earth while in the writing inquiry process, I awoke to becoming the earth, answering the calls of poets, Helene Sissou, who beckons us to become the earth of writing, and Marta Hauck, who illuminates Earthvox, or the earth's voice, through dreaming and writing of, with, for, as the earth's voice. Because of this, I capitalize Earth when it appears throughout the book, acknowledging my place as an Earthling. This book offers methods of inquiry and learning to engage a rematriation that includes grieving for and with the Earth, our Mother. New old ways of reclaiming and regenerating human irrational abilities are introduced through teaching and practicing art, ritual, and trance as inquiry processes, not requiring drugs and or paranormal or psychic abilities. The irrational, drawing from poet-philosopher Jean Gebser, is a form of knowing that includes the body, emotions, senses, intuition, imagination, art making, the mystical, spiritual, and relational, alongside the rational. The irrational, viewed from the Western rational perspective, has most often been confused with the irrational, thus disqualifying it as a valid and significant site of learning. The irrational has historically been acknowledged and valued within mystic traditions and by artists. Through inquiry-focused art making, this book journeys into the irrational, numinous experiences of place, ritual, trance-based inquiry, and learning. Introduced through a lens of artography as ritual, the reader is presented with art, artists, theories, and art and trance practices. Within artography as ritual, the spaces of trance and ritual open up artistic inquiry, extending, deepening, and integrating what is revealed in the process, interweaving learning, unlearning, and making with place and sacred space. Artography as ritual is where one's existence is opened up rather than closed down. Art and sensual spirituality are the heart and circulatory system of the book. Transformation is the taught practice, and ritual is the holding vessel. So I'm going to share my screen. Thank you. And you can adjust your volume as you need with this 5-minute video.
Art, ritual, and trance inquiry. Irrational learning in an irrational world. Sacred Song describes the sound and feel of this book. How indeed do we develop a transformative understanding needed for our world? Much like the Mother Spruce Tree, this work by Barbara Bickle encourages stillness, reflection, connected knowing, and putting roots deep down into ourselves, into our silences as a way of connected knowing. Her perspectives offer a cogent counter to the perverse forms of entrancement currently pervading the symbolic violence of patriarchal culture, while simultaneously offering new important routes to cultural containment, integrity, and resistance.
It really is connected to Bretta Edinger's Matrixyl language and the use of trance. And I see trance as a feminine sentence.
Bickel's daring ritual and trance inquiry, leading to educational writing with inspiring examples drawn from artworking, like those of Adrienne, Sissu, Anzaldua, and Abramovic, contributes to appreciating the radical significance of the woman artist becoming aware of healing capacities offered through code poesis. The position questioning of connective aesthetics and Matrixyl theory as ways to explore ritual as art validates the role of the intuitive, spiritual, and relational. Her vision offers the possibility for authentic, deep healing to counter individual and collective cultural traumas we live with. This book provides an experiential process, yet directs a critical eye upon the practices of education, the nature of creativity, and the irrational as a valid epistemological realm for thinking about art, survival, and one's own relationship to both. She illustrates how we may transport elements of the numinous to inspire and uplift on an individual and collective level, allowing compassion to impregnate artistic practice. This book goes directly to the heart and soul of how trance-based art and art-based trance can return us to the kind of earth consciousness that has guided traditional indigenous cultures for most of human history. Bickel's text soars to the sacred, to the cosmos, and back, unfolding the blooms of earth to emerge and immerge in essential breath.
Just want to give a shout out to Janter de Wilder for her music that's in that, as well as the voices of the Justari Art Collective and Wendell and Bartley. So shout out to them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. That was really great. That's a really great video. Beautiful and really showcases the spirit of the book, which I have right here, which is Palgrave is an imprint of Macmillan. So you could order it off the website, or Shelf Life has a few copies. You could support our huge supporter. Shelf Life has supported us for 29 Woolf's Voices out of 30. I did the third one at the Art Gallery in Eau Claire, downtown. But every single other one has been done at Shelf Life Books or co-hosted online. And it's a beautiful book. Would be minus, this is the reviewer's copy. Has beautiful pictures, color pictures, photos inside. I was practicing drawing a labyrinth at the back. And we will be doing a fundraiser sometime this spring for Woolf's Voices online, which will feature an open mic. And we will have a copy, non-underlined, non-written on copy of the book, which we will be raffling off. But if you don't want to wait till then, if you want to read it right away, go to Shelf Life. They have a couple copies. You can buy a book or go to Palgrave online. And so before we go into our responses to the book, I would like to invite everyone, if you have a candle, in the spirit of art, ritual, and trance inquiry, and the spirit of Woolf's Voices, we could all light a candle together. I'm also going to be doing a semi-interactive response or performance later. And you could also, if you want, just light a candle for that. But if you have a candle, you can light it. And it's just a very simple way across all traditions and cultures of holding space, essentially. So here's to the light of Woolf's voices. And if you want to unmute yourself, those that are on Zoom, we can howl together for a second and just start that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh! I'm not sure how well that works on speaker view, but we did all howl together. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Celeste Snober. And Celeste Snower is a poet and dancer, and she wrote the foreword to Barbara Bickel's book. She has a collection of poetry that is coming out very, very soon. She is a PhD dancer, poet, writer, and award-winning educator who was a professor in the Faculty of Education at Simon Fraser University. She has published and performed widely, and her books include Embodied Inquiry and 3 collections of poetry. So not just the newest one, but others, which you can look for more at celestesnober.com. And those links are also on our Facebook page. You can see a photo of Celeste here, and that the photo credit of is by Michelle Mateus. So without further ado, let's welcome in Celeste.
Hello, everyone. Am I okay? Am I visible? You're on. Do I need to do anything or pin myself or?
You're good. You look
good.
great.
Okay. I'm very happy to be here to celebrate this spectacular book, and I had the deep honor to write the foreword. So I felt like I got this sneak peek of such a fertile, deep, beautiful book, and I'm so excited to be here. So I just wanted to say a few things, and then I'll respond. One is that Barbara really takes us into many different worlds. She invites us into these worlds of these liminal, luscious, fertile spaces. And I want to just say that she is brave and courageous to do this work. And it's an incredible work to do this within the Academy, without, and we have really been blessed to be in this. I just wanted to ask you a little bit of a technical question. I don't see myself on speaker view, but I am. Is that correct? I'm all set. Okay, great. The Zoom life is like hormones. It is unpredictable. We never really know what's going to go on. So I just want to say a couple of things here. There are many worlds that we have. There's an outer world, there's an inner world, and I often see it as a lake. And I've been looking at limnology, which is the study of lakes. And I love it that limnology is almost like liminology. And it is in these different areas that Barbara helps us descend. So, of course, I can't get away without dancing. So we'll see how this works on Zoom. You take us in, you bring us from the outer to the inner, layers and layers of unconscious, making art, making meaning, making beauty out of earth, play, listening. Barbara invites us to listen deeply, to pause, to listen to soul, to listen to the infinite, to listen to that which is beyond. And then we are formed, informed, and transformed in it. I'm going to read you a poem that is taken from actually the foreword that I wrote, and I put it into a poem. Become more alive. Go beyond ordinary understanding of time and space, where wisdom marinates in artistic practices, connects earth and ethereal realms. Here, reading becomes an entrance to a womb and borderland, between inner and outer life, where visible threads knit the invisible, joins sensuous and sacred. An invitation waits to portals of other worlds within and without, spirit woman-festing into form, the transport, art, ritual, and trance inquiry. Dreaming into the unconscious for a more unconscious world. We are changed in the hearing, steep ourselves in the mystery of our own becoming, humble and fertile, listening to the heart and tones of the body, our lives and the more than human world, where dreams become food. Ruminations, paints for the canvas, liminalities, movements for creation. Feminist and feminine hold together a threshold crossing, brings soul to the academy, to the world, to the arts, gives room to imagine and reimagine, roaming into a womb of wonder. So I would invite you to roam into a womb of wonder in Barbara's book. And one of the most other beautiful things about this book is that it is such a testament to collaboration. Barbara's whole life is a co-creation with so many different artists. And here, there's just such a sense of that collaboration, which is often not the case as we write books, as we offer books into the world. And yet to this is such an offering of that we work and live and weave and form and go and descend into the mystery, not only alone, but we go together. And Barbara is the midwife to bring us here. So I'm just very thankful. I know I only have a short amount of time, so we're going to stop there. But I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to have written the foreword. And I love the book. And I love your work, Barbara. Well, you all know that. So thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. That was really, really beautiful. Makes me want to enter a womb of wonder. You have kind of created that for us now. So everyone give a howl out if you're at home. Give a howl out. Oh! For Celeste Snober. Yeah, and definitely check out her other work as well. And Barbara, definitely, this is an offering of caring and community, and that is definitely an accurate reflection of your artistic practice. I am going to now introduce Adetola Adedipe, who goes by Tola, also known as AKA A Lot of Poetry. So you can check out her A Lot of Poetry on Instagram, Facebook, etc. She's amazing. Tech Whiz, Instagrammer extraordinaire, Wolf's Voices collective team member that I'm super happy to have on our team this year. She will be curating the June 2021 Wolf's Voices. So Tola, aka A Lot of Poetry, has Nigerian roots. She was raised in South Africa, a featured artist at events all over YYC, from open mics to poetry festivals, and the November 2019 Calgary Slam champion. She is published in the YYC Pop Anthology by Poet Laureate Emeritus Sherry D. Wilson and the August 2020 issue of Bypan magazine. And she is an artist mentor for Black Kid Joy, a program in Calgary that supports Black youth artists in Alberta. Her first spoken word video for her poem Women what was made as a comment on the treatment of women in society, and it's fabulous. If you haven't watched it, you should absolutely watch that video. By sharing her anxiety, pain, laughter, and love, she aims to build a community that encourages loving yourself and being unapologetic about it. So without further ado, let's all give a howl out for Tola. Oh! All right. Tola, you need to unmute. Yeah, they're great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. It is very weird not knowing if you're in the speaker view or not, but that's totally fine. Yes, thank you, Adrian, for the introduction, and thank you for having me, and thank you, Barbara, for writing the book. Thank you, Celeste, for your beautiful dance and writing the foreword, and thank you, Teresa, for just being amazing, and thank you, Shelf Life Books, for always hosting us. You're great. Yeah, so basically, I just wrote a little poem from reading chapter 4 of Barbara's book. This poem is about communication, communication without words. And so rather just through actions and communicating through the body and the spirit and finding a way that we can find even more connection through that trance-like state. Because I know whenever I hear Afrobeats or South African house music, basically Black music, in general, I dance, obviously, my body, it just does something. And I feel like I'm in a completely different world, and I'm completely myself. And yeah, so I really like the inclusion of the story about Catherine Dunham and all the research that she did with the West African Mahi dances and as an earth source portal into the dream world. And so I connected to this specifically because, like I said before, I am West African, and obviously many slaves were brought from West Africa. So I can always see my Nigerian roots reflected in the culture of Caribbean islands, etc. So I wrote this poem almost in defiance, but also celebration of that connection and the communication without words, and that spiritual connection to that ancestral indigenous practices that I come from, but was never able to grow up with due to colonization and the introduction of Christianity to Africa, and using it not just to oppress, but to also destroy our culture and identity, which now I don't have, even though I am Nigerian. So, and I've been told on multiple occasions that I should be grateful that I get to live in this post-current colonized world. But I always respond with, I could have done without the intergenerational trauma and rather have the connections to my people and having people understand that, and just having a part of that be included in this book. I'm very thankful for, so thank you, Barbara. And yeah, so this poem is called Connection. I wish words didn't exist. I wish to look into another's eyes and have their feelings flood into me. As I begin to cry their tears and their joy escapes from my mouth, I want to experience the souls we say we see when we peer into the pupils of another. The tiny dark circle becomes a wormhole that we fling ourselves into with no fear as we dive into the world of others. I want to deconstruct empathy into its elements. I want to be taught the way the earth shifts when you walk. I want to know how the wind tingles against your skin, the fire in your heart when you love with your whole chest, and the water that washes the worry away. I want to hear the music of your life. I want to feel the beat between my bones as we dance through this world together. I want to connect. I want to go to bed with you at night. I want to dream your dreams and achieve with you as those dreams become real, entering the womb and understanding the birth and growth of another. I don't want you to explain how your emotions are taking hold of your actions and you're losing control. I want to take hold of your emotions and squeeze them in my fists and feel them ooze between my fingers and feel them drip to the ground, wrapping each thread that has been stitched to make the perfect outfit that is you. What you wear out the door and show to the world and wear for it, maybe just a moment. I will know what it's like to be you. I don't want any more words. As I stand here and say this poem and I project these webs of intricate vocabulary and trap you with my word play, I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to feel me. As I gaze into all of your eyes, we are creating our own red strings of fate as I stand here before you. My emotions are on their knees. I am begging you to understand me. Letters have their limits and syllables have an end. I want us to see each other as people. We don't need to be friends just to be as beings, just coexist. I wish words didn't exist. I wish body language was the template for understanding. Misunderstanding is too often the basis of communication as we talk and talk and talk down a road with no destination. We're tripping on the tracks. We are competing in this race, sweating until only self-doubt is what glistens on your face. Who will be the first to happiness? Whose happiness will be worth more? Can I be happy for you when what you want is what I want and what I want is what you want, and vice versa and more, when I haven't even begun to understand how much of yourself you have poured into this golden cup we all see as success, while we choke with each filling and gag when we struggle to hold onto the breast of life and nourish our own desires to survive. I wish words didn't exist, because I'm afraid this poem that I wrote at home while my hands were shaking, that no one will ever really get me. Even with all these words, no one will ever really know. Thank you.
Woo! Woo! Hope you're all howling at home. Adetola, aka a lot of poetry. Oh!
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Shelflife Books. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Calgary Arts Development. Thank you. And thank you, everyone at home, for just being here and watching. Thank you.
Yay. Yeah. So, okay. So next is me. And I believe, Barbara, you said you would read my bio because it's a little bit awkward to read your own. So I would invite you to do so.
I will. Adrian Adams is a poet, artist, and curator dedicated to creating safer intersectional space to honor the feminine. She has published in Anti-Lang, Freefall, Politics, Letters Live, Polyglot, Wax Poetry, and Art Rose Quartz, Nodi, New Forum, The Last Petal, Mothering Anthology through Inyana Publications, YYC Pop, Portraits of People, and others. This fall, she has artwork in the box show currently on display in the Loft 112 that we can't see, but it's there. She curates Woolf's Voices, aka Virginia, joking that it's an excuse to howl in public. She's performed her work extensively, featuring at, amongst others, South Country Fair, The New Beat, Storytellers, Expressions, Flywheel, the People's Poetry and Ignite festivals, and co-curated by Single Onion, the Calgary International Spoken Word Fest, and Storytellers for the Indie YYC. Her artwork has been shown around Alberta and is in the permanent collection of the Alberta Children's Hospital. Ms. Adams has worked as an artist in residence and teacher in the community for over 20 years. Adrienne.
All right. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, and that show is over. That was at the Loft. I did have a piece up from January until now in what was supposed to be the Bigwig show, which was an artwork about shaving my mom's head for her oncology treatments, and just how I shaved my head as a teen and how that all kind of relates together. And the Loft 112 will be opening sometime in March, and I guess I have a piece in the little book there, the Missing You Mondays book. But I just wanted to show you, Tola had responded to Chapter 4, Artists and Trance. And sort of the idea with this review was that we would each, obviously Celeste did the foreword, and then each of us curators is responding to a chapter in the book. I'm kind of responding to two chapters. First, I'm going to respond to Chapter 2 and relating it to Woolf's voices in general. And then I'm going to respond to Chapter 6 and relate it to my own practice. So Chapter 2 is called Artography as Ritual and Dreaming in Matrixyl Border Spaces. And I was reading it and really struck by a lot of things that related to Woolf's voices. So I'm just going to kind of read things that I highlighted and talk a little bit about them as my response to this Chapter 2. And so what I'm reading might be said by Barbara, or it might be said by people she's quoted. I'm not going to specify in this reading. I'm just going to, and they're like all over the page, blended in one to the other. So it's kind of like a found text. Artists play a consistent role in bringing emergent ritual into society through art and artistic performances, which act as vehicles to awaken reflexive consciousness in society. Artists and activists as path makers, and art as a way of marking moments in our lives. Reclaiming ritual as an emancipatory performative inquiry and learning process, one can dramatically reaffirm one's place of belonging and identity within community. Ritual enactments at once awaken the reflexivity of consciousness and tranquilizes the anxiety provoked by doing so. So ritual as a frame, and I think about how Woolf's voices, the intent is to create a safer safe intersectional space, which is essentially a ritual, and how we started howling. Woolf's voices, the name came out of an auction. I had wanted to call it something like feminine voice, but I also wanted it to be cool and something everyone could relate to, and I think Woolf's voices is a much fancier name, based on Virginia Woolf, suggested by someone else. I was really happy it was voted in. And then we just started howling in one of them. And, I joke sometimes in my bio that I started Woolf's voices just as an excuse to howl in public, which is really fun. But it is a ritual. It's a nascent ritual, which helps to bond community and create a container of safety. And that's one of the reasons I've been trying to do it on this Zoom, because I do think it's something lacking a little bit over YouTube and Zoom, that we really have that binding glue when we meet together in community. So part of me introducing the lighting of the candle, I think we might try to do little things like that even online that do create more of a ritual, because as Barbara says, and I really empathize with, I do have a desire and motive in writing and art making to create compassionate relational bonds that inspire moments and potentially movements for social change and transformation for the betterment of all, human and more than human. Woolf's voices have been criticized at various points for being political, and rather than, just artistic. And, as Adrian Rich said, the personal is political. I kind of believe that. And it really is about trying to create that safe space and create change for that. Barbara then goes on further in the chapter to talk about Bretta Edinger's Matrixyl theory. And so I'll just read a few things relating to that and then talk about that in relation to Woolf's Voices too. Matrix, being a womb-based feminine signifier of aesthetics and ethics within a relational theory based on mother and fetus in the womb. Metamorphosis in the matrix is interconnectivity and coexistence, as in the process of change, emergence, and transformation in conscious and non-conscious moments of co-encounter. An experience with art, whether between the maker in the art-making process or the viewer when meeting the artwork, is a potential entryway into matrixyl border spaces across time and space. So essentially, art becomes like an entry into a womb. Dwelling in the in-betweenness of the matrixyl realm can draw trauma and fear to the surface at individual and collective levels. The term copoiesis as a part of metamorphosis takes place relationally between is and non-is, the co-becoming fetus and mother. And I thought of bell Hooks's theory about feminism existing in the margins, and that the womb as holding it safe, which is like a safe space, like Woolf's Voices seeks to create a safe space, regardless of gender, because we all have that experience of a womb, all coming from a womb, being that we don't live in Brave New World and there's no wombless babies that are born. We all have that sort of in between is and isness, beingness experience in the womb, and that art, ritual, and trance seek to sort of create that space. So in a sense, I think Woolf's Voices has always talked about we want to honor the feminine, however you define that, and we've had all sorts of ideas about that. And so this is essentially what Barbara is presenting as the feminine. Let's do the circle. She says, I translate woman artists literally and metaphorically as womb an artist, one who evolved and came into being through their mother's womb, as we all have, and who remains aesthetically and ethically connected to this co-relational place of originary matrixyl difference. The woman artist can be one with a fertile or non-fertile biological womb or a present absent womb, as in you don't have to have a womb to be a woman artist. You just need to come from one, as we all do. And I think about that in relating to how I've always talked about we all have the feminine within us. We once a year do the 50-50 gender bender edition, where we invite men to honor the feminine as well, as we all have both masculine and feminine within us. So I related that to chapter 2 as well. Men having experienced female originary difference as womb dwellers, she further concludes, are not excluded from becoming women artists. And in terms of communicating, communicare meaning to share is a form of communication that goes beyond verbal communication and opens a hospitable compassion that is an instinctual primary compassion available to us all. And just that's essentially the type of space we want to create in Woolf's Voices. As a little haiku that Barbara wrote in Matrixyl Gift Economy, found in Edinger and Virtanen, any work of art, by definition, is a string of generosity, a work of art is a gift. And thinking of Woolf's voices as a gift to the world, as a space where Barbara asks some questions at the end of the chapter that I would summarize in my own words as, can we counteract the culture of the Anthropocene that we're currently living in through the practice of feminine communicating or Matrixyl border spaces? So I really realized how all of that relates so much to Wolf's voices and wanted to reflect on that too. So that's my kind of response to chapter 2. And now I'm going to go to chapter 6, Attending to Ancient Voices. And in it, she talks about the work of Wendelin Bartley and Inuit throat singer Tanya Tagaq, who both work with the body as a vocal chamber, resonating with ancient voices, can awaken and attune us to the self, the other, and the cosmos simultaneously. I'm not going to read as many quotes, but just basically the idea of sounding as ritual, as art performance that comes from the body. I thought about John Cage's performance of silence and listening to silence and just the breath. And so I'm going to invite us all, and I also thought of Hildegard von Bingen's work, and there's lots of really good stuff in this chapter. But I'm going to, instead of talking too much, I'm going to share some of Wendelin's and Tanya Tagaq's work just as an introduction. So this is an excerpt from Wendelin's Earth Soundings, which is also based on her listening to nature. And I'm just going to play about a minute of it. And you can kind of light the candle if you want, get in tune with your breath. And I'm going to invite us all to do some sounding after I show the 2 little clips. So here's Wendelin Bartley's work. So also the idea of the voice as coming from a womb space. Before we all learn to speak language, we make sounds when we're in the womb, we make sounds as babies. And so in a trance-like state, which could be achieved through, dreaming or meditation or yoga or sounding in this sense, and sounding, tuning into nature, sounding from your body, the earth as a body, the earth as feminine, the earth as a womb. So I think that's a really good example of that. And Wendelin does beautiful work, and you can join her and Barbara for a chapter conversation about the book Attending to Ancient Voices on Sunday, May 16th at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I've included the link and Barbara's email if you have questions, and the blog post. And if you're interested, you can go back. This video will be on YouTube afterwards, and you can click on the links directly from it there. So my next experience, which was really, really neat with Tanya Tagaq. Barbara also saw her that summer in Vancouver. I saw her in Calgary at the folk festival with a friend. And it was absolutely chilling because this is a little video clip that I took from my place in the audience, and she started howling like a wolf, which just, it sounded exactly like a wolf during her throat singing performance. And then these dogs, which were sitting right next to us, started howling in response. And it just, we both got chills down our spine. So I just want to play that little clip. It's not the best video, but the sound is what's important. So Tanya Tagaq is an amazing artist that I highly admire. Yeah, that was just a really neat moment in terms of Wolf's voices. She creates sort of a shamanic trance space dancing. And in responding to this chapter, I did not engage with that performance, but there's on YouTube a performance of her performing on the Millennium stage wearing a red and blue plaid dress. And so the first three paintings in this video that I'm going to share are, you can see that influence in the colors. This is just a screenshot. This is of the piece I did with dry, and at the beginning of the video it's wet, so I just wanted to show the difference. But I invite everyone to sort of take a deep breath, and we'll all howl together as a way of going into sound. What I'm going to do is show a video of artworks that I've created. About half of them have been created in a space called Spontaneous Creation Making that Barbara and her partner Michael Fisher host, which creates sort of a meditative space, and you just play. But all of, like, reflecting on it, I've realized that when I do my deepest work, I can't just do it on the fly. I can do deep sort of poetic trance work with words on the fly, but to get into that visual art space, I need more time. And what I realized, it's because I essentially go into a light form or a very deep form of trance. I often get images. Some of the images I share are from dreams or dreaming awake, as Barbara talks about, but they're all created in sort of a deep space, which I realized is actually a place of trance coming from the irrational, which Barbara makes clear is different from irrational belonging to the place of dreams, trance, meditation, not illogical as in irrational, but irrational. So yeah, I'm going to play the video, and I invite you to make sounds. I'm going to be making sounds in response to my artwork, and I've never done that before, so here it goes. We'll start with a howl. And the first three pieces here are created in response to Tanya Tagaq's Millennium performance, Millennium stage. So. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Thank you all for participating. So if you want, when you're at home, you can try your own little sounding ritual again. So that video kind of loops from the 3 Tanya Takak responses through to a womb space, through to artworks that I did in communication with the earth, both at Writing on Stone and at Dinosaur Provincial Park. And then loops back again, so to create a circle. So that was my response to chapter 6, which was called Attending to Ancient Voices. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our last responder. And then afterwards, we'll all gather together for a little bit of a reflection on Zoom after this. And Teresa's going to be responding to Performance Ritual with Tanis Hugel, which is chapter 7. And Theresa Maylie is the April 2021 curator. So the next Woolf Voices will be Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. On YouTube. And I'm really happy and excited for who Theresa is going to curate. Theresa Maylie is a writer, historian, and consultant based in Alberta. She has a very unsecret life as a poet, creative nonfiction writer, and playwright. Her current focus is on the history of the LGBTQ+ community in Canada as a form of advocacy and social justice. Teresa was a runner-up for the Alberta Playwrights Competition 2020 with her new play, How to Make MET, and she performed from it in the November Woolf's Voices. So if you're interested in seeing some of her work, you can watch Woolf's Voices 28, which has a clip of it. And yeah, it's very, very good. So without further ado, please welcome Theresa Maylie. Oh!
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me okay. And I'm getting some thumbs up, which is very good. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. I'm very humbled to be able to respond to chapter 7. So I've been very excited about this. I'm trying to figure out exactly what to say. I was thinking more of my own personal reflections in the piece. In chapter 7, there's so many things in this conversation that brought me back to some interesting spaces of my own with authentic movement and how we can personalize that through my own yogic training. as a person who does yoga on a daily basis for the last 20 years, I've really been able to work into my breath and my yogic body, my soul, my mind, and what that authentic movement really means to me outside and inside my own brain and my own body. There was something else that the yogic experience and this chapter, when the two were in conversation, were talking about having these specialized containers before we experience and go into our own otherness and or to our own double allies, which I thought was a brilliant idea. So this idea of immersing yourself into and tapping into a double ally that we all share and that we all have in our beings. I do that when I am in my yogic training, because it's not just moving in a space, but I'm actually having afterwards a very personal conversation with that double ally and discussing things about my own personal life and my own journey. And yoga has really created this safe, sacred space for me to do that in a very non-prescriptive way, because I do my own practice as well as follow courses. So I never really called it my double ally until I read this wonderful, beautiful conversation between these two authentic beings in this chapter, who are really coming at it in this beautifully honest way about what their practice looks like. Especially one thing that led me to the first poem I'm going to read. I have two poems. Both of them are relatively short. The one is the found poem, and it really is in reflection of a certain point in the journey that the writers are, the speakers are discussing, where things are not healing, when things are not in conjunction, when things are not grounded. What does that look like? And then afterwards, I constructed a poem and I call it Sought. So we have found and we have sought. So I'll read found first. Question everything but your art is not well. Balance out. All you are doing is drinking movements. It was the performance. Being seen but not healing. Devastating movements towards that self-destruction. Being seen but not healing. Those drinking moments. Now, healing. Now, movement. Now, practice. Now, not drinking. These inner collaborations, the outer collaborations, this authentic movement of the breath. Now, healing. Now, moving. Now, practicing my breath.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the found piece, based on literally bits and pieces of the discussions that were termed in there. And the sought, moving with others, transform with breath. Formed and experienced, now blessed in my heart, in my practice, poised, contribute to all energies. Mountain pose, stay. Feet on the land, stay. Sky and arms, stay root, stay rooted. Stay in this new geography of your new body in the space that yoga and you inhabit. Between two lungs. Terrain of the mind. It is a bumpy body stiff, but a spirit now released. The circle of the arms trace and follow the breath to land and legs, those mountain feet, heavy and released to earth. Present in my body, spirit, mind. The action is now. The thought is now. The breath is now. Rooted. And that's it for me.
Woo! Yay. I'm really glad. Yeah, really glad you mentioned authentic movement, because I was actually going to talk about that too, because I have done that. And in terms of ancient voices, Vala Campbell and Mayo Ludanowski have both done work. Val is a professor at the U of C, and in authentic movement, sometimes when you're moving, you just end up sounding too. And so that relates. You just reminded me of that. So thank you. And Sought and Found, our favorite coffee shop in Calgary.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
I was like, which I actually went to with Teresa one time for the first time. Yeah. And I mean, often at Wolf's Voices, when we're in person, I would talk about my relationships with people and how I met them. So that's definitely one of the places we first went for coffee. My story with Barbara is kind of special because I saw Barbara's artwork at the New Gallery when I was 16 years old, and it blew me away. And I kept trying to find the Center Gallery, and it's definitely part of what prompted me to go to art school and go on the path towards becoming an artist. And I was friends with a mutual friend of Barbara's and really wanted to meet her, but she moved away to Vancouver and the Center Gallery closed before I had a chance. And then 20 years later, she moves back and we get to know her, and I'm doing artwork with her, for her in groups, and and becoming friends, and she wants to be in Wolf's Voices. So it's pretty amazing to have Barbara enter my life in that way, as an artist that I have always had a huge crush on, hugely admired her work and her practice, now performing at the event that I started. So thank you. Yeah. So Barbara, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Wow. I just want to say, wow, maybe I should howl. Oh my, wow. Whew. So we were going to end with me sharing a little bit of a response to everybody's response, but I'm also open to hearing from each of you that are here, Celeste and Tola and Teresa and Adrian, as you've been listening to everything. I'm just kind of blown away. And I just want to say that Adrian, we're kind of this circle here of Adrian ending with this crush. And I just want to go back to the circle that my first crush was with Celeste Snober. and so to have her here and to write the foreword to my book was like my,
long time ago, Barbara.
Was still fresh as today, Celeste. And so what I want to say with that, when Celeste did her dance, it took me back to my moment of meeting Celeste at the Women's Spirituality Celebration Conference, and she came into the center of this beautiful altar in the Epiphany Chapel at the School of Theology in Vancouver, and she danced with words just like she did tonight. And I was like stunned as a visual artist who also loved to dance, but was terrified of words, and really had a kind of with Tola, like, let's get rid of words, but they're so essential. And to see her bring them together like so seamlessly blew my mind at the time. And I feel like my journey, which this book really brings together, is me being able to express these practices, working collaboratively with others through words, through the visuals, through the sound, and then how crushes beget more crushes, art begets more art. And so, yeah, I just feel such gratitude for that, because that's exactly what I think the world needs. It needs to be opening up to really authentically being with each other, hearing each other, listening to each other, seeing each other, as each of you have also beautifully reflected back to me. Like, I'm feeling so heard and seen right now. I'm kind of overwhelmed. I'm kind of overwhelmed. And it does, it feels like, and then the circle of, from me, the Center Gallery, 20 years ago in Calgary, to Wolf's Voices, which is a combination of literary and the visual arts, which the Center Gallery was as well. So lots of circles of crushes. Yeah, with beautiful women artists. And as Adrian, really, really tackled, taking on that the woman artist is all of us. We all come from that place of womb, of connection with the other, that we don't even know. We're in this, place where we can't see, but we're in connection with this other. And we know that originary place of being nurtured and brought into being, with each other. So those are my initial response. And I have, many more thoughts and words, but I'd like to give space if anybody else wants to say anything. But thank you. What a beautiful circle.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's an honor to be reviewing your work and to work with all these amazing artists. I loved all your poems that you all presented, and Celeste, your dance, and all your reflections. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Tola and Teresa and Celeste and Barbara. And if you want to unmute yourselves, we can just do speaker view. If anyone has any responses to anyone else's work, we'll just open that up to the floor. Yeah.
I just wanted to open up a little bit and say that, Tola, when you were speaking with your poem, it reminded me very much as a Métis woman of always being, the words are not my own. When I'm speaking, it is of my ancestors, it is of my family, and I would like to know more than I get to know. I've always been so limited, right? And so when you were speaking about that and colonization and the rest of it at the beginning, but also was putting it more, I want to know what it is like to be with you, but I can't. And words are not going to help. In fact, they hinder constantly. They get in the way of, even as a historian and writer, they get in the way of me actually knowing what the past was. It makes it worse. It makes it harder to understand the authentic being. And the authentic, again, it's this word of authenticity is coming through in Barbara's work, the beautiful dance that Celeste just did, the authenticness of it. And the problem is that when we're talking about not being able to reach that past, that authentic beings, words make it worse. They make it more of a trap. So thank you for sharing that reflection. And that's what I just wanted to reflect on, that it kind of, so I wish we could all authentically move together. It would be so beautiful. I could find the movement of my ancestors more. So that would be lovely. And I guess I do, because I'm lucky enough, we have song and dance, just like you do. Mm-hmm. We have jigs, we have our reels, we have our art, we have our way of connecting still, and it is in movement. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. I definitely agree. Like, it was very nice to just feel the genuinity. That is a word. Genuinity.
It is. It's the way.
Am I even a writer? I don't know. But just to feel it, because like you said, the words, they have their limits, but as long as people are willing to try to break those boundaries, then it's, like Barbara with her book, she drew from so many different sources, which is why it makes it so holistic, which is why I like it so much. So thank you, Barbara, and thank you, everyone. So yes, thank you.
As I hear you talking and responding as well, I do have a sense that there was ancestral voices that were in this book and that have guided you, Barbara, and you have been open to it. And I deeply connect to that, of course, because I've been exploring intergenerational trauma of the Armenian genocide, of my own ancestry. But that sense of you being open to the ancestors of what is unseen, And so they're imbuing words in a different way. So there's breath in there.
Yeah, totally. And I think that I like how you used a lot of found poems throughout the book, because poetry is a way of communicating with words in a way without words, if that makes any sense. It's sort of that irrational mixing together of words like images in a dream space. And and so, I mean, reflecting, I think it's interesting that I chose to present my visual art, maybe in that sense, although, you know, I did think about poems and have poems, but I really felt drawn to sort of present that through sound. And Tola, when you were performing and you're talking about, I want you to feel me, I want you to feel you, you are sort of talking about the other, and and I really felt you. And sometimes when people read poetry, you don't always feel them. I really, really felt you. So, and I think you are in general a very dynamic performer, and I tend to do that, but it was like amplified today. So I think I got your message. Thank you for that. Yeah.
So thank you for providing the space, because it's also, because I could also say the same poem with a completely different group of people, and it might obviously everyone will get a different feel from it, but then sometimes depending on the people that are there and their energies as well, it may not even be perceived. I might say it in front of people that will give me feedback and say, hey, I feel personally attacked by this colonization. And I was like, no, it's not about you, it's about me, kind of thing. So it's about all of us, honestly. So thank you for receiving it the way that you did. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And I feel that too. I resonate with what everyone has said in terms of that. One of my struggles or things that I'm dealing with as an artist and poet in general is how to connect to the land we're on, Treaty 7, in an authentic way that also honors my ancestors, which are predominantly Slavic and Scottish, which I think is one of the reasons I was drawn to Tanya Tagaq in her plaid dress, because it kind of relates a little bit to my own ancestry just through that. And how do you connect to my ancestry, or how do I connect to my ancestry and my ancient voices from Ukraine and Galicia and Scotland, and also connect here, because there was a disconnect, right, when we immigrated too. So there is a trauma with that, at the same time as perpetuating trauma over the land and the people where we immigrated to. So it's kind of like a double whammy, and just trying to make sense of all of that. And I appreciate you all and delving into that. I loved how Celeste used movement too. And movement with words.
It's not so fun doing it on Zoom, I'll have to say. It's very different when we.
It still made me feel happy. I was as soon as you stood up, I was like, yes, we're getting a shot.
Yeah. Me too. I was like, this is going to be good. And it was.
I was like, oh, magic, so magical. I love to see it.
Well, you can all dance in your offices, in your bedrooms, in your kitchens.
I often do.
For you to dance at home right now. Cool. Does anyone else have any other comments or anything else they want to read or say? No? I'm going to share my screen again. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening for next Woolf's Voices. I forgot to change that slide. The next Woolf's Voices is April 27th on YouTube. You can check out our website, wolfsvoices.wordpress.com. Soon to be, thanks to Calgary Arts Development, wolfsvoices.com. So, or something like that. So it'll be great. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. One has the comma, one does not. And again, special thanks to our co-host, Shelf Life Books. Go to Shelf Life, buy Barbara's book or any other books on art, ritual, and trance inquiry. And we always appreciate your support. Make a donation to support Wolf's Voices. Any donations you make now will go absolutely 100% directly to artists, as Kata has given us money for a lot of our other things that we're doing. So there's a link here, or there's links on our website and also on our Instagram and on the Facebook page and events too. So thanks. We can all howl together. Thanks for attending Wolf's Voices.
Oh,
Have a good night, everyone.
thank you all